What's up, guys? I'm Hubsmash, and I wanted to share my Peacekeeper build with everyone. Since hitting Rep 3 and getting 108 gear score, I've had some time to try a bunch of different things out. So this is my build. This is just my opinion. I mean, obviously, you're free to do what you want with your PK, but this is how I choose to run with my build, and I've had some success with it as well. So as a PK, it's an offensive character, so I'm going to do an offensive type build. We're not going to be focusing on defense in any way. But I'll go over my gear and my stat priorities as well as my feats, and we'll talk a little bit about why I've selected each, and it should give you at least a starting point for how you think about your build. So let's get into it. We'll talk about gear first. So if we go into the Customize tab, we'll go to the Loadout. So for Helm, I've actually prioritized debuff resistance. Now, that's not the most popular of a pick. And the reason that I did this is because it helps with reducing bleed durations. It reduces stun duration and that kind of thing. So it makes it easier to kind of recover yourself from these situations where you would normally die. There's been a lot of times where I've been grabbed by a Peacekeeper and I've been stabbed or I've been hit by a Nobushi with their bleed, and I would have probably died if I didn't have this debuff resistance buffed up. Now, a lot of people here go for revenge mode duration maxed out. I've chosen to go this route because I think I don't really need extra time on my revenge. I find that my revenge is long enough as it is with this, at least with this as a secondary stat. So it's important to note as well, with heroic items, you get two stats basically. And one can be all the way pretty much maxed, and the other one is like half max. So you'll notice that my exhaustion recovery is way down. And that just means that I have to be pretty careful about getting exhausted. I need to be careful about how I manage my stam, because if I do go into exhaustion, it's a lot harder for me to recover, especially if there's a hero that I'm fighting against that has any kind of stamina draining attacks. For my chest, I've went with block damage and sprint speed. Now, I don't care about execution health regen. I play Dominion, so that's what this build is for, is Dominion. I don't know if I mentioned that at the beginning, but I prefer sprint speed and block damage for Dominion. Execution health, there's a lot of ways to get health already in Dominion. Like, you just run to one of your points. And because the execution health isn't huge unless you focus on it as a main stat, I just don't really see the value. The block damage is all right because when you hit your attacks when they're blocked, some of the damage will go through. So that's why I've done that. Now, you could alternatively get rid of the block damage thing, because block damage also isn't great. So I mean, I'd probably put execution health regen as a very viable secondary stat for this. But sprint speed is broken. It is overpowered. Get sprint speed. You're going to outrun everyone. Peacekeeper's already really hard to get away from. This just improves upon her already very strong kit as far as chasing goes. For her arms, I went with stamina regen and then block damage resistance as the secondary. I don't care about long revives because I don't spend a lot of time reviving people. And when I do revive people, I'm usually in the clear. So that's the reason I do that. I don't find I need to do that any quicker. I'm not doing a lot of those clutch revives because chances are I'm just going to get jumped and I'll die. I'm too squishy to kind of be in there just vulnerable like that unless the coast is clear. For my blade, I've went with attack and stamina cost reduction. So this is a pretty standard one. It's pretty straightforward. Really, your options are pretty minimal. You could go with the stamina cost reduction as the primary and then use attack as the secondary, but I prefer to up my damage as much as possible. Now, it's worth noting that you're losing, about 8 or 10% defense. So you're going to take approximately 10% more damage from enemy attacks if you go with this route. So it's just worth knowing that, but I haven't had issues with that. For my hilt, I've went with revenge gain by defense maxed out and revenge mode defense. Feat cooldown reduction is fine. I'll show you my feats later. We're okay with having longer cooldowns on the feats. We don't use our feats very much, and when we tend to use our feats, we only really get one use in a fight anyway. Even if this cooldown reduction was maxed, I don't think we'd get much use out of our active abilities, and you'll see why later. And for my dagger, I got the Narzan dagger. I'm pretty psyched about that. But I'm focused on revenge mode attack and revenge gain by injury. So basically the build is kind of focused around doing a lot of damage 1v1. If I happen to get in a 1v2 or 1v3 situation, I'm going to get revenge really quickly as long as I'm defending or even being injured. I'll gain revenge. and then I'll do a ton of damage, basically. Now, my throw distance is minimal, and that's okay because Peacekeeper, you don't want to be throwing people around. You have a pretty weak throw, I think. And honestly, if you grab them, you're probably going to want to be stabbing. Especially now that they've fixed the stabbing. So it does the 3 bleeds now that stack up to, I think, 32 damage or 36 damage. I can't remember, but it's 30 something damage after you apply the 3 bleeds. So we'll go into the abilities. We'll do our feats. So the first feat is stealth, and this is crucial to the way that I play the Peacekeeper because I like to get the jump on people. I'm not about that, honorable 1v1 kind of fighting thing. Not in Dominion. I like the 1v1s, but 1v1s and 2v2s are the place to do those. In the Dominion game mode, and it's my opinion that people should just fight. You want to win, you help your teammates. If he's in a one-on-one, you go in and help him. Now, do not feed the enemy revenge, but help him in a way that you can. Maybe toss a grab in and throw or something like that. I go with thick skin instead of, you could go with revenge attacks or Fiat Lux, which is a flash grenade. But revenge will get you passive revenge from attacking. Now, you get revenge so fast with this build anyway that thick skin, I think, is better. You get the moderate damage reduction. It kind of makes up for that damage, that defense that you lose on your blade. And so that's why I go that route. Sharpen blade is crazy strong. People underestimate how much damage this actually does. What it does is it applies, I believe, around a 10 damage bleed to almost all attacks, 5 or 10 damage, or it may actually do a percentage of the attack. I'm not exactly sure of the math, but I've noticed significant damage comes from the bleed. So it says inflicts a low damage over time. I would say that it's slow damage, but it's not necessarily low. Fear itself is the second active ability for my 4th tier, and that basically lowers people's stamina regen around me and their defenses. Now, the defenses is the key to that. You're going to hit huge attacks if you have Sharpen Blade and Fear itself on, if you combine those two. Now, I tend to stagger them because what you want to do, they're both really strong in their own right. So kind of putting them both on is a little bit overkill, and if you get killed while you have them both on, they're probably not going to come off cooldown. You're not going to get to use them again. So what I tend to do is I tend to stagger them. I'll use Sharpen Blade, and then I'll wait a little bit, and in the next fight, I'll use Fear itself. These aren't really feats you want to use in 1v1s unless you're having really big problems with a specific person. You tend to want to use these in 1v2, 1v3 scenarios. This will allow you to do so much damage that it's there's not too much that anybody can do to deal with the damage as long as you're landing your hits. Like you're going to see with Fear itself and Sharpen Blade, you can see a zone attack, which is a really quick attack, right? That normally hits for 20. You're going to see that hit for somewhere like 60. I don't know exactly what it is. But you'll get revenge too, right? In those scenarios. So you're going to have revenge, which is, I think, plus 50% damage. And then you're also going to have the Sharpen Blade adding to bleed, and Fear itself, which adds a bunch of damage. I'm not sure how much it lowers the defenses, but it seems pretty significant because when I have it up, I hit like a truck. So that's my build for the Peacekeeper. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you liked the video, click that like button. It really helps with the channel. If you want to see more of the stuff I make on For Honor, consider subscribing. Let me know what you guys think of these feats and these gear selections. I'd like to hear your opinions. I am by no means an expert. This is just what I've had fun with and had some success with and thought I'd share it with you guys. Thanks so much and take care.